Okay, so we're going to start talking about the portion of the toolbox that creates images. We're going to do the pen tool last. So this is the curvature tool, and a curvature tool basically um, creates rounded or curved points just by clicking. There's no clicking and dragging. It's kind of like a no-brainer for rounded curved points. If I hit this arrow right here, I'm going to swap the fill and the stroke, and now we can see what that looks like. Curvature tool. The next thing is the type tool. So we have type on an area, and type on a path. So I'm just going to go to the regular type tool and type in my name. I can highlight it. We can go up here, change the typeface, change the point size. So if we look at this, this box will make it bigger. You could scale it out of proportion. If I hold the shift key, as you should always scale type proportionately. You can do that. This dot right here, double click to convert to an area type. So if I double click, that brings this down here, and then we can make an area of type. Like that. The next thing is type on a path. So we need to create a path. So I'm going to go to my ellipse. Just draw an ellipse. I want it inverted like this. And so I'm going to go type on a path and click and type that. So that gives us these lines. This is the beginning of, this is actually the end of the type on a path. This is the beginning, so it can kind of move my name around, and then the path stops and it disappears, see? But if I take this end and move it around, it shows back up again. Type on a path. Next thing is the line tool, and the line tool just creates lines, but notice that you don't see anything right here. That's because the line, it has a stroke of none. So I'm going to go up to this stroke area right here and change it to, say, 4 point. And there we go. You have your different options of different types of lines. I'm just going to go uniform, and we are going to create lines. So I'm clicking and dragging and letting up on the mouse. Now, if I hold the shift key down, it constrains the line to multiples of a 45-degree angle. So we have 0, 45, 90, so on and so forth. The next one is the arc tool. I never use this. It makes an arc. If you hold the shift key down, it makes 25% of a circle. Spiral tool creates this spiral shape, and if you hit the up arrow, it makes more of a spiral. If you hit the down arrow, while I'm dragging out, so I have not let up on the mouse. I'm still click, hold, and dragging this, and hit the up arrow, and it adds more segments to the spiral, and the down arrow takes away segments from the spiral. I'm going to go Command A and then delete. Next is the rectangular grid. I don't use this, but I'm sure there's a use for it. And then you have the polar grid. If I hold the shift key down, polar grid is circular. If I don't, it's oval. And you can change the amount of circles and the amount of lines coming out of that polar grid. But again, I've never used that. The next thing is the shape tool. So I'm going to go to rectangle and draw out a rectangle. Now you can see the preview before I let up on it, and if I hold the shift key down, it makes a square. If I let up on the shift key, it's a rectangle. Square, shift key. Rectangle, no shift key. And then I let up. Once it's here, you see these little dots. These are effects that you can do on the corners. So if I drag this out, you have nice little rounded corners, like so. If I take my direct selection tool and select just a couple of points and pull them out, I can make rounded curves on just some of the square corners. The next thing is a rounded rectangle, and the rounded rectangle, the shape of the rounded corners can get sharper if you hold down hit the down arrow as you're drawing it out. See, now it's sharp corners. If you hit the up arrow while you're drawing it out, you can see the corners become more rounded. And even after you let up on it, you can still go in and adjust the roundness of these edges. And you could also use the direct selection tool to adjust the roundness of individual items. Like that. The next one is the ellipse tool, and the ellipse tool is you can create an oval, or if you hold the shift key down, you can create a circle. Now if you hold the option key down, you can create an item from the center out, and that goes for circles and rounded squares and rounded rectangles and rectangles. If I hold the shift key down, I can make a perfect square and create it from the center out. Next one is the Polygon tool, and the Polygon tool usually defaults to 6 sides, but holding the up arrow can give you more sides. Hitting the down arrow can give you less sides, down to a triangle, up more, down less. The next one is the star, and the star usually defaults to 5 sides. There we go. So let's do that one more time. So if I look at this is a 5-sided star, and I could hit the up arrow to give me more sides, more points, and the down arrow to give you less. And then if I want the rays to be longer, I hold down the command key and pull it out. And you can see that the rays are getting longer, or I can pull it back in and it becomes more of a chubby star. Skinny star, chubby star. Then we have the flare tool, and the flare tool is one of those, ooh, it looks cool things that I'd never use because it will look like you did it in Illustrator. You don't want to make people realize immediately that it's an Illustrator illustration. So I would stay away from the flare tool. The next thing is the paintbrush, and so it just draws like this. There are brushes over here that you can change the style of brush. If you want a thicker brush, you can hit the right bracket key a couple of times and it gets bigger. And then if you want a thinner brush, you can do the left bracket key a couple of times and it gets thinner. Now I want to show you these brush strokes in outline mode. So I'm going to go to View and Outline, and you can see that they all look the same. They're all the same thickness in outline mode. Outline mode basically takes away any kind of design element to it and brings it down to its essence, the path that you're creating. And I wanted to show you this because the next item is the blob brush, and I can do the up arrow again. Can also kind of create a wacky painted area like that. So let's go back into View Outline and see the difference between the blob brush and the regular brush. So these are the blob brushes down here, and you can actually see that they've made a polygon where this is just a line. Polygon, line. So blob brushes make polygons and regular brushes just make a line. I could go in here and make adjustments to this blob brush. Let's go back to View, like that. Alright, let's go Command A and delete. The next thing down is the joint tool. I'm sorry, it's the pencil tool. So the pencil allows you to draw things, and we again have no stroke to it, so we're not seeing anything. Let's delete that and go to the stroke and give this some thickness. There we go. And now when we go to the pencil tool, we can see what we're drawing. The one below that is the smooth tool. So if you have a sharp edge that you want to smooth out, you actually have to select the stroke. So I want to smooth this out a little bit. Go to the smooth tool and kind of say, all right, let's smooth that out. Or let's smooth this out. The next one is the eraser tool, the path eraser tool, and you have to select the line first, and then I'm going to click, and there goes the line. It disappears. The next is the joint tool, and we can add this item to this item like that, and it's back. The next is the eraser tool, and you can erase things like that. The next thing is the scissors tool, and you can actually just cut items into portions. So you can click anywhere on this line like that, and notice that this is not selected, but this is. So I couldn't cut this because it's not selected. You have to make sure it's selected. So there you go. And so if I come back to the move tool, the selection tool, you can see that I've just cut this into portions.